Hey, this is Dave from ERC. Welcome back, and this is the second video in the series about the Night Radian. This is the flight test version from Horizon Hobby. Now, I promised you that I was going to talk about two important tips that would keep you from crashing. So I'm going to talk about that first, just to get that out of the way, because I know you probably want to have that right away, because everybody's got a short attention span these days. So let's get to that now. Now, one important tip I want to tell you that might prevent a crash. The kit comes with 4 little pieces of tape right here, and you use that to hold on the horizontal stabilizer by putting the tape right here across this plastic piece, top and bottom. So what happens is the tape comes loose right along this seam, and then the horizontal stabilizer starts to move backward, making the elevator move down, which causes a nosedive, and then the plane crashes and there can be extensive damage. So there's videos on YouTube about it where it's actually happened. So I recommend don't use that tape. Find some other way to hold this in there. What I did was I used some of this fabric tack glue to hold it in there. First I laid the plane on my grid here, my work grid, and made sure that this was positioned correctly so that the horizontal stabilizer was 90 degrees and centered up in the middle right here. And then I drew 2 lines with a magic marker. I know that isn't the prettiest, but that's what I did. Then I pulled it out part way, put some glue on it, put this fabric tack on it, and then pushed it back in, aligning it with the line I drew, and let it dry. So that's not going to come out of there. That won't come out. If it does have to come out, it'll have to be carved out, but it can be done. Okay, so now on to the next tip. So the next important tip is the CG that's mentioned in the manual right here is wrong. This CG is actually for the previous Radian, which had a different body design. Remember, they beefed the tail up on this one and changed the fuselage a little bit. So this one balances differently. It now balances at 3 inches or 76 millimeters. So keep that in mind, because there's people that have tried to balance it on 2.5, and it's scary. It just won't fly right. It's tail heavy. It can crash. So that'll again save you a crash. So pay attention to that. It's 3 inches on the Night Radian. Alright, so another tip I can give you, and this is just for your consideration, it's about the wing spar. Now the wing spar is pretty substantial, but the end of it is kind of thin-walled. So what I've done to keep it from breaking is put some of this dowel material that I got from Lowe's, and this is the orange one. It has an orange tip on the end. This is the thickness that you need. They come in different colors, and the colors represent different diameters. So I got the orange one, and that fits very nicely into this tube. And it was just a little loose, so what I did was wrapped it lengthwise. I put some tape on it lengthwise all the way down, just one long strip, and then fold it around like this to make it just thick enough so that you can jam it in the tube. And once you do that, if the tube flexes, and it gets really flexed hard, the walls aren't able to crimp in because of the wood, and that keeps it from breaking. At least it won't break as easily. That's the number that Lowe's uses right there. And maybe you can even use this barcode to scan it in on your cell phone. Now the tape I used is the Super Hold tape from Scotch, and I got it at Office Max. It's clear, it's like packing tape basically, but it's not quite as wide. Okay, we're back. Now I want to talk about some of the interesting specifications about this plane that you might need to know, and what I did that might be a little different than what someone else might do. Okay, so let's get into that now. Looking at the specs, you can see the motor is a 480B brushless motor, 960 kV. The ESC is a 30 amp brushless, and the servos are the Park Zone 1060s. The receiver I don't have because I got the plug and play, and it's an AR636 with AS3X technology, the safe technology. Recommended battery is a 1350 milliamp hour, but like I said, it'll take up to a 2200, maybe even a 3000. Just a suggestion, it's a little bit hard to fish the wires here for the wing lights through this little hole up through here and then plug it in this little block each time you want to move the wings off and on. So I suggest using some of these. And these are just short extension leads right here that you can plug into the block and put them through this hole. And then you don't have to try to connect to that funny little block there every time you want to take the wings off and put them back on. You can simply plug into the socket, which will be at the top. So now I have the two extension wires installed into the block. I can close the latch, move over to the front here, and you can see the socket sticking out. I'll move one of these over to the other side in the other hole. I just wanted to show you the two of them together. So to install one of the wings, now all I have to do is plug the two connectors together right here, matching the colors of course, and then stuff the connector down in the hole with the wire. Just make sure the wires are out of the way so they don't pinch, like that. And then there'll be a screw that goes in through the bottom. Comes in the kit, looks like this. Inside the nose there's an exposed set of the LEDs. So there's two strips on each side of the nose under the canopy. And you can see they have 3 wires and there's 5 volts data and ground. So here I've completely removed the wiring harness from the aircraft and you can see the components. Here's the switch to turn it on and off. The power is coming from the balance port on the battery. And then you have the 5-volt regulator right here, or UBEC, which goes to the button board, which also has the electronics to display the different patterns on the addressable LEDs. And here's the connector block right here. And you can clearly see this is just pins that are soldered together in parallel. And there's no electronics in that whatsoever. It's passive. But I can unplug this wire and plug it into any of these ports and I'll still get the same pattern that's being output by the button board. So I'm going to use a FreeSky D4R-2, which has 4 channels, because that's all I need. But you just be you and use whatever receiver you want. Now there's only really 3 connections right now, so a 4-channel should be enough because I just got elevator and rudder, and then I have the throttle that comes from the ESC down here, and that's all I got. And then I'll have one left over for some accessory. Now it'd be nice if I could put the lights on that 4th channel to switch them on and off or change the patterns, but as they say, it's just not a happening thing. Alright, so that wraps up this video, but don't forget to like and subscribe, and especially hit that notify bell icon and check that notification checkbox so you'll get the next email that's probably going to have some flight video in it, and I know you want to see that. So see you next time and happy flying!